My name is Ross Erickson. I am the Sales Operations Manager for Daikin Applied, the global leading industry in the HVAC marketplace. We started our vendor search in December of 2021, and I believe Varicent was selected the following month, so it was in about a 45 to 60 day process. We were under a tight deadline to make that selection and get our build and design and implementation done fairly quickly. The system that we were using was a homegrown system from another vendor, and they had decided to stop supporting it entirely and then shut it down as well. So we were under a very tight deadline to get something up and running within about a 6 to 9 month range. We had been with our old software for probably 7 or 8 years. There was a strong degree of comfort in the customer base. And when you don't have strong software experience or strong project management experience leading the charge, the messaging that was going from our subject matter experts was that build Varicent like our old system. And so there was a bit of inflexibility on our side to really open up to what Varicent could provide. And I had prior experience with Varicent as well. My first experience with it was, I don't see how this is going to work. As a programmer, I can't get in and say, give me these 10 transactions and do something with it. I have to say, give me an aggregation of this, give me a summation of this. And it was converse to how I learned to program and develop systems. But now that I've been there and I work on the outside of it, building, I do a little model design myself when I need something, and it's incredibly easy. So Varicent is a very, I don't want to say simple system, but if you have that kind of a background, it's an easy system to get into and do your own work with. And the more complicated you need to build something or to do something, that's where the experience of WorkCentive would come in. When we got to a point being about 10 or 11 months into it, and I knew immediately that it was going to be many more months in order to resolve our issue, my leadership team, our VP of sales, our director of sales operations, and at one point, final endpoints, our executive team, so our CFO, our CTO, CIO, we were all on calls with really the executive leadership saying this is simply unacceptable and we need to get through this. And there was a lot of back and forth. Statements of work were revised. We came down to what is the least acceptable build and design so that we can conclude this project. And that really was our stages. We are paying all this money to get to a product, and we're basically getting to a very generic brand rather than something that was supposed to be customized to our needs. What we were doing was simply a band-aid approach to a fundamentally flawed model. And once we got that admission, I basically fired all support for our model. And that's when I began the vendor search to completely redo what we had just spent really 18 to 20 months doing the first time around. And that's when I came across WorkCentive and said, this is the group that I need. I had attended the Accelerate conference in Boston in 2024, and Noah Bass had given a session, and it was on solutions and comp plans. And I appreciated the ease with which he was able to just explain his topics and really connect with the people in the session. And that was evident simply by the number of questions that he got afterwards. It was really engaging. And so when I started the vendor search, I looked at WorkCentive, and I had also looked at 2 or 3 others and did interviews with each of them. And Noah, in his conversation with me, was just as at ease as he was presenting. And that was something that was really important to me because I have a database development background. I have a lot of IT experience, a lot of systems knowledge. And in my position oftentimes is translating IT speak into public speak. And Noah, given his technical background in his own development space, he and I were able to speak both languages and understand each other. And I knew that his team would be able to do the same, because you always know the team somebody hires by who they are. And so I had met a couple of the other employees and just had the same experience. I was not being sold a box of support mechanisms in each individual thing we had to buy off the shelf, and maybe you could do this or do that, whatever. No, it's very much simply, what is it that you need and how can we help? And that just goes miles. So it was a very easy decision for me to select WorkCentive. I knew our model design was fundamentally flawed, and so I went back to the offerings that WorkCentive had, and doing the health check was absolutely primary and core to do that. And so I convinced my executives that before we do anything, this is what we need to do, because you can listen to what my experience says, but I need somebody that does this for a living to really get into the nuts and bolts of our model design and give us top to bottom. These are the things that are good. These are the things that we could probably tweak, but you're going to have problems in the future. And then here is where your core problem is. And I knew the core problem was in the fundamental design, and our health check confirmed that. So once we had that in play, I went back with my own little 30-day project with the executives and got the necessary approvals, and then gave pretty much a clean slate to WorkCentive to get going and let's do this. And the beauty of it is, in about 4 to 5 months, they have been able to build a completely functional, adaptable, and usable system. I've really enjoyed working with Olivia as our project manager, and certainly Kevin as our designer, and Basil's been in the background kind of doing more band-aids with our existing system. As a solutions provider, not just a vendor for technical support, but as a solutions provider, the more you have in that background, in that engagement, the better you're going to be at your job, and the better, I think, retention of client you're going to have. One of the big reasons why I didn't take any of these other vendors is simply that they were selling me a product. And that's a very easy 100% yes. As I noted, our initial design was barely functional. It was a Band-Aid system. And I know that in the coming years, we will be revising our compensation plans and in our structure. And I just had great unease in updating, changing, redesigning, rebuilding Varicent in the existing model, and hoping to get exact results, getting correct results. And you never want to have a data system, especially a compensation system, where you're hoping to get good results. You have an expectation of getting accurate results, as you want your people to get paid properly. So WorkCentive absolutely has been able to build us an exact system. All of our testing in really the span of a week or less, which each of the different sequences has come out to 100% expected results. And that, for my superiors, that just blew them away, because they had experiences not only with our Varicent model, original Varicent model, but also our previous system. There's always some kind of Band-Aid approach or external adjustment that needed to be made. And we're having to do none of that with our current system that's been built by WorkCentive. So I have complete confidence that as Daikin grows and changes in their compensation practices, that we'll be able to continue to use Varicent and adapt.